But that has nothing to do with the disaster that we saw on Thursday. What we saw on Thursday was a feeble old man who is not fit to be assistant manager at McDonald's. Anthony, who is more competent, Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
Well, Joe Biden easily. We look. He's done better. Your guy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we're going to take a look at a clip from a long episode of the Piers Morgan Uncensored show, where they debate the performance of the first Trump and Biden debate that happened a week and a half ago. And this was wild. And Anthony Weiner, his take on this episode is just absolutely insane. We have Piers Morgan here, Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report. They also had Ben Ferguson on there. And of course, on the far right of your screen will be the leftoid, Anthony Weiner. This gets wild. Let's get into it.
Welcome to all of you. A stellar panel indeed. Let me start with you, Ben Ferguson. How happy are you right now about the way the Democrats appear to be self-imploding on a biblical scale?
Not at all. I was watching the debate and I was yelling at the TV 3 minutes in, please get better, Joe Biden. I've never rooted for him more in my entire life because I knew this is what was going to happen and they were going to probably try to replace him if he didn't get the ship back going the right direction very quickly. This was a disaster. It wasn't even a debate about who won or lost the debate afterwards. It was, this is a senile old man that clearly is incapable of doing this job. And everybody in the world saw it, including our adversaries. But I wanted him to do better than this. I just wanted Trump to have a victory that night. I didn't want it to be this. And now you've got this civil war going on. But look, I wanted Joe Biden to be the candidate because that's who the American people voted for. I wanted them to have a big, grand debate. And unfortunately, he's incapacitated. And so now you've got all this happening, but we don't even know who we're running against right now. And that's not good if you're a Republican.
Anthony Weiner, well, first of all, what were your thoughts watching that debate? Your honest thoughts?
It was bad for Joe Biden.
Terminally bad in terms of his political career?
I don't think he's going to die from it, but
no, I mean in terms of his career.
Look, I mean, it was definitely not good. I mean, you got two old guys in this race that are both banged up pretty badly, but we've seen this race before. The American people have voted in this exact race before, but before a lot of bad things happened to Donald Trump. It's not good, man. It ain't good. But this is the race.
But you're suggesting that Biden carries on.
I don't really look. It's all conjecture. It's really hard to convince. Joe Biden has to decide he doesn't want to do it. Presidents generally don't decide. Who are within 1 or 2 points generally don't decide they're not going to do it. I don't see it. I'd probably say 95% it's Biden, or 5% it's Harris. But this is probably the race.
Really? I mean, I find that extraordinary. I mean, there is precedent.
It's not.
You've had
it's
two.
Not though.
You've had two Democrat presidents, incumbents, since World War II, Johnson and Truman, both of whom, after conversations with the party grandees, have decided to step down. Those conversations, Anthony, must be happening, surely, with Biden.
Conversations, sure, but it comes down to the one person. This guy is our nominee at this point. I mean, look, he'd have to decide. Like those two guys had to decide. It was much earlier in those cases, and both of those guys were in danger of losing primaries. It almost doesn't really matter what we speculate. It's most likely going to be Biden and Trump. We can engage in the parlor game of who might fill in if Donald Trump can't continue. You know, about the same number of people don't want Donald Trump to continue as don't want Joe Biden to continue. These are two deeply unpopular old dudes who both make more gaffes than you can imagine. But this is the race, and the last time Biden kicked his ass, I anticipated it would be the same.
First off,
all right, Dave Rubin.
Anthony,
go ahead, Dave.
With all due respect, Anthony, this debate had absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump actually put on, I think, probably his best debate performance ever. He was controlled. He was measured. He had total mastery of the issues. His answer on abortion was probably the single clearest thing I have ever heard him say on the topic, and gave a little bit to everybody on that, which is what you have to do as a president. But that has nothing to do with the disaster that we saw on Thursday. What we saw on Thursday was a feeble old man who is not fit to be assistant manager at McDonald's. And I don't mean to throw any assistant managers at McDonald's under the bus, because that's a tough job. But the man should not be president. We all know it. And by the way, Piers, we've all known it even since he was sworn in. The media in the last couple of days, we are watching them rewrite the narrative in real time.
To put it mildly, Weiner is wrong. That's a weird sentence. As much as people on the left don't like Trump, it's not even close. The people on the right dislike Biden very much. And now even a lot of people on the left think that the man has lost it. Like, absolutely lost it. There was rumors, right, when he first took office, I think Tucker Carlson put those out there, that he was starting to have dementia. Some of his family didn't want him to run for president back then because he had those signs that it was getting worse. And now he is gone, man. That is a dumpster fire of an individual. I had recency bias when I first watched the debate, right? I thought, man, they're going to get rid of this guy 100% because that thing was bad. That was a train wreck. But the more I think about it, I think he's going to still be there. He's going to be the nominee. At this point, who else would it be, right? There's talk of Gavin Newsom and Big Mike Obama, but if it's not Biden, it's going to have to be Kamala. They're not going to want a white man in there, that's for sure, especially not an old white man, because God forbid you would have that. They're going to want to go with the woman of color, or at least a woman for sure. But if there's one person that people dislike more than Joe Biden, Crooked Joe, is crazy Kamala. I mean, you want to talk about crazy woke ideologues, though. Harris is out there. And Dave Rubin mentioned writing history. It was funny because before the debate, everybody says, Biden's got this. He's sharp as a tack. He spent all week at Camp David not doing presidential duties, just preparing for a debate. Yeah, of course, that guy's really on point if he needs that. And all the help that he had during the debates, the notes, the teleprompters, you can tell the moderators were very much in favor of Biden. But everybody before the debate, they were talking about how, good Biden is, and this thing about his age is nonsense. And then after the debate, the leftoids had a meltdown. Every big media platform had their talking heads on there saying, oh, this wasn't good. He should step down before it affects his legacy. No shit. But just like Ben Ferguson just said, I don't want Biden to step down. I want him to stay there. At this point, seems like the easy win, doesn't it, for our side? Let's get back to the video.
You know what, Dave? On that point, Dave, I do weekly columns for New York Post, and I went back and checked them since Biden got re-elected. And I have written, I don't know, it must be 6 or 7 columns in that period to date about Biden and how I do not believe he's physically and mentally fit for the highest office in the land. And honestly, I'm not saying
to your credit, I don't consider you part of the mainstream
Well, I'm not saying
media.
that to look like some sort of clever dick. I'm just saying that I was writing this, as were many other people, but there was a huge conspiracy of silence from the mainstream media. And we now know, because now the gloves have come off, now the blinkers have come off, now they understand from that debate that Biden is basically self-imploding in terms of his competence to physically and mentally do a job. And now they're saying, well, a lot of journalists have known about this for a while. That, to me, is a real abrogation of duty by the journalists.
Look, the journalists lied to the American people. They were around him. They saw it. They knew it. The only thing that changed, Piers, is that the media got their marching orders from the Democratic leadership, including Nancy Pelosi, who went out there and threw Joe Biden under the bus yesterday. And they're like, okay, now we need you to turn on him because we're afraid we're going to lose our access to power and our radical agenda to Donald Trump. And so it was in their best interest. No one was being a journalist at the White House press briefing yesterday. I want to be clear about that. I give them zero credit, even though they were actually doing what journalists should do with their questioning for the first time ever at the White House press briefing of this president about his competency. They did it for selfish reasons because the Democratic Party is afraid they're going to lose. The media is afraid they're going to lose. And so they did it in their own self-interest to contain this disaster and try to keep power. I also think this line, though, that Anthony used a minute ago, and he kind of halfway did it, so I give him a little bit of credit for this. this idea that you're going to convince the American people that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are the same and are just as senile and old is laughable. They're trying it on TV. They're trying it. I mean, well, they're both old. They're both senile. The White House press secretary yesterday, you should be asking the same cognitive questions of the other guy. Like, it's a joke. The two men are not the same.
Well, actually,
one is
I would ask,
and
Anthony,
one is not.
Well, I would go back to Anthony, because look, you and I've known you a long time from when I was at CNN. I've been in rooms with you and Trump, and I honestly watched him at that debate, and I saw a guy who looked and sounded and behaved exactly like the guy I've known since 2007. I mean, there's not much difference. So this idea there's been a dramatic market slowing down of Trump or a cognitive decline or any of those things, I'm just not buying it. And nor I don't think are the people who have to vote, because I'll come back to you, Anthony, with one question, and I'll phrase it slightly differently. Not is Biden going to be the guy going forward, but in your estimation, as a Democrat, should he be?
Look, first of all, I just love a panel of 4 media people who all have said that both these guys are too old and shouldn't run, but the media is covering this up. Everyone's been talking about this stuff.
I haven't said Trump shouldn't run.
Settle down. I'm in the middle of talking.
I think Anthony's got his fishing rod out there, lads. Be careful.
Settle down.
He's fishing.
Settle down like media. Oh, the media is so...
By the way, that's a Trump technique. The Trump technique is to go, Piers, as you know, and then say something outrageous, which you don't know at all. I haven't been thinking.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys...
Go on, Anthony, go on.
We're all media people. We're all talking about this. The idea that no one's been talking about Joe Biden's age is kind of insane. Fox News is the biggest media. I don't know what's going on over there in England, but here Fox News is the biggest media organ on earth as far as we're concerned, and they're all over this every single day. So settle down with this, like, well, we know we didn't know. Look, both these guys are...
Well, so you're admitting Fox News has been right the entire time.
You had one person in the briefing room asking these questions, Anthony. Everyone else is like...
But let me ask Anthony. Anthony, let me repeat that question I asked you, which is not whether you think Biden will be the nominee going forward, but whether he should be. As a Democrat,
neither one of these guys, I agree with the American people, neither one of these guys should be the nominee for their party. Piers,
we're not talking about Trump.
I think here's what might be a better show, is if you let me answer your question. I think that might make a better show.
If what?
So then answer the actual question.
I have said, and the American people have said over and over again, neither one of these guys should be the nominee for the party.
I'm not asking about Trump.
That's not the question.
I know you're not asking about Trump, but I'm making an inclusive answer.
I'm going to come to Trump. Over there. Look, just to be clear, I will come to Trump, I promise you.
I don't want you to come to anyone. I just want to answer my question. Can I do that for a moment?
Yes. Do you think personally, as a Democrat, Biden should be the nominee going forward?
I appreciate you letting me answer the question. Good grief. I can't imagine anyone enjoys listening to this. I don't believe that either one of these guys, inclusive of Joe Biden and inclusive of Donald Trump, wants either of these two guys to be their nominees, but they are. We can engage in the kabuki theater of, well, if they weren't, would that be great?
No, you're not answering my question.
I just did.
No, you didn't. Because my question is very specific. Let me ask it again. Right? You're a Democrat. Given the state of the polls right now, do you think, as a Democrat, that Biden should be the nominee going forward, or should he be replaced? Never mind whether he will be, which is what you think the probability is. Do you think he should be?
I am in concurrence with the broad majority of the American people that neither one of these candidates should be the candidate.
Why can't you answer the question?
Piers, he can't. There's a reason he can't answer the question. He can't answer the question because he's a Democrat.
Actually, I'm going to get a Dave Rubin for this.
He's a Democrat first, so he can't answer a question.
Let me get a Dave Rubin because here's the thing.
President with dementia.
In my lengthy career as an interviewer, by the way, when people don't answer the question or answer a completely different one, it normally answers the question for you. It means they don't want to answer it. Dave Rubin, what are you taking from Anthony Weiner's response here to the question?
He can't answer the question because he's a Democrat operative more than a journalist or whatever he's purporting to be in that little box. So he knows that the president has dementia or some other seriously significant cognitive decline. We all know it. We've known it for years. It finally has burst forth because after Thursday night, nobody can deny it, which is why everyone on CNN and Washington Post and New York Times and everything else is freaking out. But the problem that Anthony Weiner and many, I would say, ballpark sane Democrats have, and there's not many of them left because the far left has completely demolished the party. The problem that they're having is they know they've got a guy with dementia who should not be in office, and Kamala is probably worse.
Both
so
parties
you are
have
going
that
to
same
have to
problem,
do,
my dude.
You are going to have to do trickery beyond imagination.
If you look at the polls, the same number of Republicans. Why is it? Do you think that Nikki Haley gets 30% when she hasn't been on the ballot in 4 months? Why do you think that is?
Hey, let me say this. I'm happy to talk about Donald Trump. You may learn something here. You may learn something. Republicans are happy and chose out of a lot of people running for president our candidate. Stop saying we don't like Donald Trump when we love Donald Trump and he's up in every swing state in America. Why would we not want a guy that's up in every swing state in America? You're insane. You don't know what you're talking about.
If you are unfamiliar with the polls that show that Americans are not happy with the choices they have, then I can't help you with that.
That's not what the poll says. That is not what the poll says.
Let me try to ask a question on Piers Morgan's show.
This is
Piers, can I try to be the host here?
Yeah, let me go to Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin.
Anthony, let's try it this way. I'll take over the host reins for a sec. Piers, if you want to get a coffee.
I'll be my guest.
Yeah.
Anthony, who is more competent, Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
Well, we've Joe Biden easily. We look. He's done better. Your guy.
We have a man in the White House right now running the country that most of us would agree he wouldn't even be a greeter at Walmart. Yet he's the commander-in-chief of the biggest, strongest military power in the world, and he has access to the codes to the nukes. A man that at this point probably can't wipe his own behind. If I'm a Democrat right now, I want him out of there as fast as possible. One of the big problems with these politicians, especially lifetime politicians like Joe Biden, this is his life's dream. They dream about this. These are power-hungry people. Imagine how power-hungry you have to be to want to run a country. Good or bad. I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing, but these are people that like power and they like status. And the status doesn't get any bigger than being the president of America. Joe Biden is not going to just give that up. He's wanted to be the president since he was a little kid, and his wife is as power hungry as he is. She's not going to just let him leave without a fight. If she was a good wife, in my opinion, she would have had him step down a long time ago. The man's not well. It takes a special kind of person to watch your spouse, your significant other, go through these things, get humiliated all the time, and still push them to keep going. So unless something mysteriously happens to Joe, I think he's going to be the nominee. But this is clearly not a man that you would want, even if you're a Democrat, this is not a man that you would want negotiating for your country on foreign policies, on war, on... There's so many crises in America right now, right? The border's a big crisis. 15,000 people a day are crossing that border illegally. Undocumented, I guess, would be the politically correct word. I like to say illegal. The homeless crisis, the fentanyl crisis, the crazy inflation, the housing market, the house prices are insane. Is this the man that you want negotiating the future for the next 4 years? Let's face it, he's not going to make it 4 years, but what if he did? This is the point in the video where the conversation starts to get heated and fun, so let's get back to it.
Your guy's the only president in Twitter that's lost jobs. Your guy screwed up. Look, the American people have already ruled on this, right? They've already ruled on this.
No,
they chose Joe Biden easily. Your guy lost net jobs. The economy
that was
is
4
that's
years
not the
ago.
issue.
Joe
If
Biden can't complete a full sentence. End of quote.
Can I tell you this whole idea of asking me a question, then I'll listen to the answer. I can't imagine it's helpful. All I'm saying is if you frame the question like that, Democrats win. I hope you phrase the question like that. Who are you better off under? Then you're doing much better. Right now, they're focusing on the competency of Joe Biden. As a tactical matter, I want to focus on what I think the American people are going to focus on.
Anthony, let me ask you a question. Are you a betting man?
Too early for me to drink.
Anthony,
right?
are you a betting man?
Yeah.
Anthony.
I'm only a betting man to know that conservatives are going to get their ass kicked in your country, and they're going to get their ass kicked here too.
Well, they're certainly going to get them kicked here. That is without any doubt. But let me ask you, if you were a betting man occasionally, would you accept, say, a $10,000 bet to a charity of your choice that Joe Biden is not the nominee in 2 calendar months?
I still believe, I mean, we're returning to the same question. It's very difficult for him not to be, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, but I'm challenging that view. Honestly, I'm surprised. When you say it's 95% certain that Biden is going to be the nominee,
about what I would say.
I just think when the mainstream media, which skews heavily liberal, when they turn on a Democrat president, as they've turned on him, it looks to me like the dominoes are all just falling now, hour by hour, day by day.
Well, let me say something that I think all four of us will agree upon. We people who talk about stuff for a living, we love this stuff. This is great. This is a slow summer, and we're having a ball with it. Who's in? Who's out? We have it all the time. We like it. And by the way, this is a reference you won't understand, Piers, but my friends will. This is the backup quarterback scenario.
I know what that means. How dare you? My knowledge of NFL is better than yours.
The president of the United States of America is now the backup quarterback.
Hold on.
Wow.
I'm taking a run at you. I was taking a run at you. This is the
Anthony,
backup quarterback.
No.
Can I just have a thought, one complete thought here?
Don't speak over each other, because we can't really hear you when you do. Anthony, finish your point.
I will. So you say, well, everyone's talking about it. I'm trying to tell you from my knowledge of the system and the fact that it comes down to a grand total of one human being who has to say, the guy that beat him last time, who's only trailing by a couple of points despite all the maelstrom, I'm going to drop out and then turn the reins over to someone else. It doesn't practically happen. If it did, I think it's a 5% chance that it happens. But this is mostly us talking to each other about this stuff and people gossiping about it.
Come on, Anthony. Anthony, when my former employers at CNN turned in the way they've turned since, by the way, the second that debate was over, John King, within seconds of that debate ending, lacerated Biden in a way I have never seen him go after any Democrat politician.
Piers, they're going to get back in line. Let me just say this quickly. This is a full-fledged effort by the media to get him out. It'll last about 7 more days max. And if he's not gone then, they're going to get back in line and they're going to protect him because they have to. That's how the media works. This is not authentic. This is take a run at him, see if you can get him out quickly. If you can't get him out, the media will, again, lose all of this anger about they were lied to and questioning the cognitive decline and asking if he's had a test or a brain scan. And they'll go right back in line to Joe Biden's the best thing since sliced bread, because if they know they're stuck with him,
you know what, Ben? You know what, Ben?
Well, can I just respond to that point?
You can. Yeah, go on.
Let me just suggest that. And this comes up. I was inside for 25 years. Now I talk on the radio. You know, we presume that there are these conspiracies when they're usually just coincidences. I don't believe that there is a great master plan to do anything. I don't think we're sophisticated enough to have a master plan. The bottom line of this thing is that
I think Democrats are calculated. You're not giving yourself enough credit.
I understand. It is so important part of the narrative of the modern day Republican Party that there are conspiracies going on. I'm telling you, from my experience,
I'm giving you credit.
Let me just finish my thought.
I'm giving you credit,
finish my thought,
you understand
brother.
what I'm giving you? I'm not kidding. Hold on. But I'm giving you legit credit. Democrats know how to do this. You guys are damn good at it. You know how to go when you need to go and when you need to protect. You're good at it. Take credit for that. There is nothing that's happening right now that's organic. This is genuinely a full court press from Nancy Pelosi to every major member of the media to get rid of Joe Biden.
I agree.
You should see
that could well
clearly
be the case. If you let me finish my thought, that could well be the case. There may be many, many people who in their heart of hearts want to get rid of Joe Biden.
Man, Weiner's so wrong and he can't even admit it. The left wants Biden gone. But when he says that it's both parties feel the same way, that's not true. 50% of the country loves Trump. Maybe at this point it's more. The man's loved wherever he goes. You watch him at sporting events, at golf shows, when he goes to the UFC, at rallies, he goes to a restaurant. The man is loved. Biden's a dumpster fire. You can try to feed this narrative that they're both old and don't have their wits about them, but if you watch that debate, there's only one guy on that stage that didn't have his wits about him. Now, I'm telling you, if you showed that debate to somebody who didn't know who these two people were, who had no idea about politics or American politics, and you made him watch that debate, clearly this person would not want Joe Biden to be his representative on the global stage for 4 years. You would think you got a senile person here debating a person whose wits are fully intact. But again, one of their big problems is that Kamala is more unlikable than Biden. I love to see it. I swear, I love to see it. Let's get back to the video.
But there are practical reasons for everything from how the money flows to we don't have an obvious next choice to the polling for everyone else is not that great. I get people may not I can tell my phone was blowing up with people like saying, what the hell during that debate? I'm not disputing that. What if we're going to have a conversation like adults about what we think is actually going to happen? I, as someone who is supposedly the inside of all of this, can tell you that there are a lot of reasons why it will be Joe Biden. That's all I'm saying.
I honestly,
wait.
I think
Piers,
I do think your response is very interesting. And you were on the inside. And by the way, you're not entirely wrong. And Dave, I'll come to you on this, because the rules stipulate that all the money that Joe Biden has raised so far for this election campaign can only go to his vice president. It cannot go to anybody else. So Kamala Harris is in immediately by far the best position, because all that money can only go to her.
She's the 5%.
Right. Well, look, the Democrats made a deal with the devil, and here we are. Let's not forget, whatever deal they cut during primary season last time around, when right before Super Tuesday, everybody from Mayor Pete to Elizabeth Warren to Andrew Yang, et cetera, dropped out. Everyone except Tulsi Gabbard, who ironically is the most moderate Dem because she's not even a Dem anymore. And had Biden chose her as VP, I think there'd be an awful lot of Democrats going, I can vote for a Democrat because I'll have Tulsi Gabbard. I might vote for a Democrat at that point if it was Tulsi Gabbard. I hope Trump picks her, but that's a different thing altogether. But what we're seeing now, in relation to your question, is that they are stuck between a man with dementia and a woman who in effect has dementia. Her thoughts are basically the same thing, right? The circular logic and the rest of the nonsense. So everyone knows that if you were to push out Joe Biden, you end up with someone that is potentially worse. I would also say, I would agree with Ben in that what we're largely watching right now is the media just figure out how to spin the lies in real time. So I think what happened on Thursday night was everyone saw a corpse up there, a man who could not complete a thought, and every single sentence he said, all you were waiting for was him to be able to be unable to finish it, right? So because it was so bad, they all actually told us the truth Thursday night, and now they're spinning a new narrative. Now he was on cough medicine, or he wasn't feeling well, or he didn't sleep enough, even though he didn't work for 6 days prior. And I think the more that we can just sort of peel back that layer and see what the truth is, then we'll be able to make some positive
Anthony,
decisions.
let me come back to Anthony. Anthony, let me come back to you.
Can I respond to that, Piers?
Yeah,
let me just, first of all, what happened in 2020, Democrats chose the moderate on that stage, who then went on to beat Donald Trump. We did that part right. Now we've got an incumbent.
But he hasn't governed as a moderate. He was a puppet.
Can I please, first of all, he has. I can't think of a single thing the squad has gotten done in the last 4 years. But let me just finish my thought. Can I please finish my thought? You might find it interesting. So now we're in a situation where we have an incumbent who's shown one thing that's super important to Democrats. He can beat Donald Trump. So people are suggesting, well, let's throw out incumbency. Let's throw out the known quantity. Let's go for unknown quantities who aren't polling so well either. I'm just saying, for practical reasons, this isn't the media protecting or not protecting. There are dementia. I don't understand this. This propensity to talk over me is really not helpful. All I can say is that the notion that there's layers and media this and media that, there are practical four corner reasons why he's going to be on the ballot, and we can come back here in October and confirm that.
Let me say this. Piers.
I
actually think Joe Biden is going to be the nominee, but it's not for any of the reasons that were mentioned. I think Joe Biden has dug in here, and Joe Biden has dug in, and Hunter Biden, for example, is now in top meetings at the White House, and I think this is about survival. I also think this is just about the Biden family. Joe Biden desperately needs to stay in the White House as long as possible until his son's legal issues clear up so he can either pardon him or give him clemency. I actually think this is about the family now more than anything. They're not making decisions based on logic of what's best for the party, what's best for the Democratic future, or their ideas. If it was about that, they would hand the reins over to Kamala Harris. But they're sitting there, and he's got to protect his son from going to prison.
But I think, honestly, here's the problem.
He's not going anywhere.
Hang on. Here's the problem,
based on the fact that everything he's doing right now.
Here's the problem. Is that literally within the 3 or 4 days we've had since the debate, he's going to places, reading autocue, where he is reading stuff off the prompter, which is there as a note to him about reading back quotes or whatever. This is a guy who's become a literal walking puppet.
I'm very comforted that the man with dementia has a top advisor who's a crack addict.
Right, I think the whole idea of Hunter Biden being anywhere near this.
He's not a literal anything. Learn the language. Right. But you're going to give you're beefy about reading off a teleprompter. I saw Donald Trump complaining about the lousy teleprompters 90 rallies where
No, you're missing my point. You're missing my point. My point is every day that Joe Biden. Hang on, let me make my point. Every day Joe Biden now stays in office and doesn't give up, the focus from the media collectively is going to be utterly ferocious on every slip up, every mistake, whatever. Trump's not even going to get any airtime, right?
For 7 more days.
And that's why I say with absolute certainty that I would be absolutely staggered if by the time we get to the convention, Joe Biden has not resigned. I'd be staggered.
All right, yeah, that's congratulations. You're doing the convention of wisdom. That's what I come on the show for.
Dave Rubin, who would you fear most on the Democrat side of all of them, all the names that have been put out there?
Well, I think Newsom is the devil incarnate and possibly a lizard person, so I would fear him at an existential level for the country. But I do think, if we could give credit to Ron DeSantis for 1 second, in that debate that they had a couple months ago, he completely demolished him and really exposed him for the fraud that he is. But if the average American wants the entire country to turn into communist California, we could be in a lot of trouble. I don't know what they're going to... Look, I will say that the one thing that Anthony has made sense of, he said a lot of things here, is that the machinery right now is set up for Biden to continue. Clearly, he should not continue if you care about America. You know, when Anthony earlier said that we're all happy about this because we're pundits and we get to talk about it, no, I would much prefer that we had a moderate Democrat that we were sold. And even if I disagreed with him on some policies, the country was in a better spot. We are quite literally in the most dangerous spot this country has been in probably since the Cuban Missile Crisis. If you're China, why wouldn't you take Taiwan right now? If you're Iran, why wouldn't you say to Hezbollah, destroy Israel? Because no one in America will believe that the president is the one making the proper responses. Yeah. So we are at an unbelievably tenuous position right now. As far as who will take over for the Dems, I mean, I don't know how is it. I mean, this is the mechanism of the party, but the Democrat Party is evil. What will they do to get rid of the black female vice president? The DEI people booting Kamala Harris to bring in the rich white guy. You gotta love it. I mean, that's a great soap opera.
Okay, listen, we're going to talk about this a lot more. I'd love to have you all back. It's been a great debate. Thank you very much. And Anthony, great to see you with your cocky old swagger back, because I was getting worried about you. You were quite reserved last time I interviewed you, but we've got the old Weiner back.
By the way, I point out I came on in 3 minutes notice.
I know you did. And you've been terrific. You've got the swagger back. I love it. Come back soon.
I enjoyed it, gentlemen. Thank you.
Rubin brought up a good point here. They had the chance to have Tulsi Gabbard as their VP, but they needed a woman of color. They went with Kamala Harris for the diversity to meet their DEI quota, probably. And now they're shagged. They can only use the funds that were donated to the Biden campaign for the vice president. If it's another candidate, they can't use them. But no, let's face it here. We're not dealing with the most credible people here on that side of the aisle. They would most likely find a way to funnel the funds to the right person that they want, maybe Big Mike Obama or Gavin Newsom, whoever, or Gretchen. But if you had Tulsi right now as the VP, she's not an insane ideologue. She's a moderate for the most part. People on both sides like her. She's calm in debate. She brings up good points. She's not a woke ideologue mental case like Kamala Harris. It would be a much easier transition, and they would have a woman, because obviously they would not want another old white man because they're on the left. I do agree with one thing. I do agree that the candidates should start to become younger when you have these men. Like Trump has his wits about him, but you know, a lot of these dudes, when they reach their 80s and stuff, I'm not sure about that. It would be nice to see younger candidates get a shot, but the left are so against white men. Like, again, who's your option? They'd want a person of color, or they would want a lady. She could be white. They don't really have anybody that has the it factor. Not that Joe does, but all the people that would be valid candidates are, again, older white men. Anyways, it's going to be fun to watch this train wreck keep going. I can't wait for the next debate. Let's see if Joe makes it there. Until then, thank you for all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, maybe this will be the day that I earn your subscription. If not, if you could leave a thumbs up on the video, that would really help your boy out. Help this video hit the YouTube algorithm. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.